You are your firm's salesperson, whether you like it or not, and avoiding that can kill your growth. I'm Sylvia Garibaldi, founder and CEO of a well-established marketing training and done-for-you services company, tailored specifically for the modern legal and financial professional worldwide. While it's taken some trial and error to figure out which methods get the best results for professionals who are looking to grow their practices, fast forward to today, my team and I have nailed down and perfected a process that has helped so many of our clients consistently achieve outstanding results and create a legacy for their practices. I created the Serve First, Sell Later marketing podcast to give you simple, actionable, non-salesy, and results-driven marketing to grow your legal or financial practice like so many of our clients have. If you're a lawyer, mediator, financial, or divorce professional who is looking to become highly visible and wants to create a practice that makes an impact, then you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 90 of the Serve First, Sell Later marketing podcast. I'm your host, Sylvia Garibaldi. If you're joining me for the first time, thank you so much. I'm so glad you're here. In today's episode, I'm pulling back the curtain on something that we don't talk enough about, and that is the real-life truths behind running a law, mediation, or divorce practice. Behind all that professional polish, there's a lot that people don't say out loud. And you may know that the polished courtroom scenes and the calm mediator's table, you're probably very familiar with that. But what about the messy, unglamorous, honest challenges that come with this work? In this episode, I'm going to walk you through 4 truths that most people will never tell you. Things that lawyers, mediators, and other professionals think twice about before admitting, because every one of us needs to hear this message. So, whether you're a solo lawyer, mediator, or running a small practice, please stick around because these truths might be the things you needed to hear but didn't know you did. Okay, let's jump right in. All right, so let's lean into this first truth, one that almost nobody talks about, but everyone in your world should hear. And that is, you're a professional who knows your work really well, and you've trained and you have all the certifications, all the degrees to really help you get your clients the results that they're looking for. But you're also running what's essentially a small business. So think about it for a second. If you went to law school gets you primed for legal arguments, statutes, courtroom dynamics, but it really doesn't equip anyone for the day-to-day of managing people, budgets, marketing, or strategy. And that's what I call an education gap. That leaves a lot of smart, capable folks scrambling once they step into the real world. Can you relate to that? So we know that research confirms this. In fact, a recent Reuters piece pointed out that small and mid-sized law firms often get so caught up in client work and cases that they completely overlook their role as a business owner. They're doing the work of a practice, but they're not investing in running a practice. I hope that makes sense. And to add to that fact, few professionals are ever taught even the basics of business planning, financial management, marketing and sales, effective operations. So your training may make you a brilliant advocate, but it doesn't make you a CEO, right? And so that skill set tends to come from a lot of trial and error, late nights, or learning it on the fly. So here's a reality check that you may be able to relate to. You're juggling calls, case predictions, deep dive research, while also doing the invoicing, client intake, staffing, contracting work, marketing, and sometimes even cybersecurity. So it is a lot. And you're not just the brains, you're the heart, the arms, and often the one wearing every hat in the office. But here's what most people don't say out loud. You really don't have to do it all, okay? So, one of the smartest moves you can make is to strategically outsource parts of your practice that don't require your highest value attention. Things like maybe intake, document drafting, marketing, overflow work, operations. So here's a story that really stuck with me. So, one small law practice began by hiring contract attorneys whenever their workload spiked. Just on a project by project basis, no rush to expand permanently. But over time, as they learned what they needed and how to manage external talent, boom, they grew into a thriving firm, right? It was smart, it was patient, it was called flexible growth. That's the kind of thinking far too few people talk about, but it changes everything. So it's all about contracting out. And once the workload gets to where it needs to be, in order to justify bringing on talent or hiring an employee, that's when you do it, right? But you start with the contracting out. So take a moment, because if any of this lands for you, you're absolutely not alone. There's nothing wrong with not knowing every part of running a practice at first. And you shouldn't have to, because that's not what you were taught when you went to school, when you got your certifications. But here's the bright side. Once you embrace the fact that you're not just doing the important work that you do, you're actually building and stewarding a business that you'll reclaim bandwidth, you're going to reduce overwhelm, and you're going to start unlocking growth in ways that actually feel sustainable. So that's truth number one. When you step into your own practice, you're not just a professional, you're the business owner. And that shift in perspective, it's everything. I hope you can relate to that. Okay, so let's lean into the second truth, the one that's not shared openly enough. Solo practice may sound like freedom, but the reality, it often comes with isolation, feast or famine income swings, emotional fatigue, and burnout. And here's what's really going on. First off, loneliness in these professions are more common than you might think. Professionals are consistently rated as some of the loneliest in the industry, even more so than doctors or engineers. And so that feeling of being personally alone is not a badge of honor, it's a real challenge. And beyond loneliness, it moves into burnout, right? So it's not just feeling tired, it's a deep exhaustion, mental detachment, and really a sense that your efforts don't matter as much as they should. And so studies show that nearly 80% of legal professionals experienced burnout at least sometimes in the past year. And that's with 9% facing consistent burnout. So, as solo practitioners, you probably are feeling this acutely. So, we know that nearly 47% of solopreneurs report poor work life balance, and 41% cite lack of support as a major stressor. So, think about that. That's pretty huge. Practicing solo often comes with minimal administrative backup and almost no colleagues to debrief on a regular basis with. So here's what's interesting. While solo practices have a tougher emotional and financial side, it also can deliver deep satisfaction when it's set up intentionally. Okay. So about 74% of solo practitioners say that they're satisfied or very satisfied with their professional lives, and only 9% are dissatisfied. And the top reason for this is really flexibility and autonomy, which is your control over your schedule, control over your clients that you take on, and control over your values. So that is pretty important. And I want to be clear that while, flexibility and autonomy is important, freedom alone isn't enough, right? So there's the emotional weight that's really real. And what we see is that professionals often hold others' trauma, they empathize deeply, and they carry that burden home without anyone to help shoulder it. So I hope you get what I'm saying here. And that can lead to compassion fatigue, which is a distinct kind of burnout. So it's going to be really important to know that solo practice does offer freedom and alignment with your goals, but it also comes with that potential burnout factor, which is a real wake up call. So, it's going to be important to build community around you. So, what do I mean by this? Join networks, find mentors, consider co counsel. There's so many different ways that you can really, mitigate this issue of isolation. So, think about groups and associations that you may be able to join. Maybe schedule regular coffee chats with colleagues. Put it into your calendar, make sure it happens. The other thing to make note of is that you need to buffer those income swings. Okay. And from a marketing perspective, we teach this all the time. You need to have consistent marketing in place in order to eliminate those income swings. You should also think about retainers, small, stable clients, maybe diversified services that you can offer to create more consistency in income. And we talked about guarding your emotional health. So that's something that you can do to alleviate burnout. So think about setting clear boundaries. Talk to trusted peers. Step away when you feel you need to. So here's the truth of the matter. Solo practice can be deeply rewarding, but only if you face its mental and financial challenges head on and build the systems to protect yourself. That's the real freedom, and it is possible when you build this structure into your practice. By the way, if you're finding this episode valuable, I've covered related topics in past episodes that can help deepen your understanding. Be sure to check them out. I'll drop the links in the show notes so you can easily find them. Okay, here's truth number 3. And honestly, it's probably the one that hits the hardest. You are your firm's salesperson, whether you like it or not, and avoiding that can kill your growth. Let that sink in for a moment. I know that idea probably feels very awkward because most professionals don't think of themselves as salespeople, right? It's messy, it's uncomfortable, and it's not something taught in a lot of the schools. And here's the thing, unless that work is done, the phone stops ringing and the pipeline dries up. So we know that the modern lawyer or mediator needs to be more than just smart. They have to be business savvy. So you also need to be someone who thinks about relationships, about reputation, and how every client interaction can lead to the next opportunity. And that's really what makes a practice thrive. But let me share something in the industry that's quietly shifting the game, and it's called the activator approach. And I'm actually going to create a couple episodes on this because I think it's really important. But the idea here is instead of banking on just a few star partners or rainmakers, an activator mindset says everyone in the firm can and should be part of growing the business. And this isn't about fancy pitches, it's about nurturing relationships, staying visible, and consistently adding value. So here's the telling part. Firms that embrace this approach have seen revenue boosts of up to 32%. And that's not a small number. That's a game changer. And this is information from a Reuters report. So, what does being an activator actually look like in everyday life? Well, it's setting aside a bit of time every week to stay in touch with people, past clients, connections, potential referrers, without waiting for a crisis to spark outreach. So, sharing insight, maybe through a quick industry note or a helpful resource, would be a great idea. Or just staying top of mind, even if it's a simple how's it going message. Or maybe you have a referral partner newsletter that you issue consistently. So it's not about selling, it's about caring. And that kind of authenticity works. We know it works. So here's what's happening more broadly. Business development isn't just a nice to have. Firms are investing in training, in tech, and culture to empower everyone to be activators. So that means associates are learning client centric skills early on. Teams are being built with diversity and client insight in mind. And marketing efforts are now tightly connected with real client facing actions. Okay, so you might be thinking, well, that sounds great, but law firms are not Fortune 500s with big business development teams. And that's totally fair. But the power of the activator model as it scales with intention and not size is really important. When each person just takes a little bit of initiative and helps, what happens is that collective momentum adds up fast. So if you're a solopreneur, I want you to take this activator mindset and think about how you can apply it to your practice, right? You are the activator. So you need to build that role into the other roles of your practice, okay? Because if you are a solopreneur, you should be taking on the activator role. If you have a couple of team members, or maybe even just one team support, even if it's an admin assistant, they should be learning the activator role as well in small steps, right? So that they understand how your business model is set up and how consistent revenue coming in is a main goal of your solo firm. Okay, so what's your biggest takeaway here? Growth is not accidental, nor is it reserved for a few naturals, right? It's built by everyday relationship habits and genuine engagement by every person in your orbit. So when you stop thinking, that's not me, I'm not salesy, and instead ask, how can I add value this week? That's when things start to shift. Okay. So, truth number 3 is you are your own salesperson, and leaning into that reality with heart and strategy won't just save your business, it's going to allow it to grow and thrive. Okay. We're now at truth number 4. And this one might feel like a subtle shift, but it's a pretty powerful one. And it's all about outsourcing. Outsourcing is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strategy, and frankly, one of the smartest moves a small practice can make. So here's the thing, doing it all yourself might feel noble, but it's limiting. So, according to trusted reporting, many small and mid sized law firms get so busy with client work and daily grind that they forget that they're not just practitioners, they're business owners too. And so without business systems, growth stalls and overwhelm rises. So that's where outsourcing comes in. It's not about giving up control, it's about building bandwidth, whether it's client intake, document drafting, billing, legal research, or niche support, marketing. Outsourcing these tasks free up time for the high impact work that only you can do. And the benefits are real, right? Lower costs because you're not paying full-time salaries, benefits or overhead, flexibility so you can scale up when you need it without long-term commitments, efficiency thanks to professionals who know the systems, processes, and tech. This fits right in. So it's not pie in the sky. Process outsourcing is booming. It's the alternative services market. We know that the alternative services market is around the $28.5 billion mark, including marketing, managed services, temporary staffing, and so much more. And that's how much value firms and departments are finding in these external partnerships. So, of course, it's not a free-for-all, but to make outsourcing work, it's critical to be intentional. So start small. Maybe just one type of task is something that you're going to outsource. Work with people who understand your tools and values, and set clear expectations and communicate them often. So none of this means that you're giving up control. On the contrary, you're choosing what deserves your energy and what doesn't. So build your capacity, reduce stress, and create room for growth. This is not weakness. This is leadership. So please let truth number 4 sink in. Strategic outsourcing is not a crutch. It's a catalyst. It gives you the superpower of doing less while actually achieving more. All right, so I've walked you through the 4 truths that most people rarely bring up when they're talking about law mediation or divorce practices. but these ones really matter. So let's take a moment to really stitch them together as we're putting the pieces of this puzzle in place. So, truth number one is that you're not doing just the technical or legal work. You're running a business, right? Managing a practice means handling budgets, operations, and strategy, yet formal business training rarely shows up in your education. Truth number two is that the solo practice isn't a guaranteed escape. It can feel deeply isolating, financially erratic, and emotionally taxing. And yes, it offers alignment with values and flexibility, but only when it's structured with the intentional support and processes in place. Truth number three is you are your own salesperson, and ignoring that is a growth killer because sales is not about being sneaky or salesy. It's about nurturing connections, staying visible, offering value. Even small gestures can fuel big growth. And truth number four is outsourcing is not a sign of weakness. It's smart, it's strategic, and it gives you that additional bandwidth. So by delegating mundane or overflow tasks, you free up energy to do your best, most meaningful work. Okay, so here's what I'd love for you to do next. I want you to take a moment and think about which one of these truths landed with you the most. Okay? Was it the realization that you're managing a business without tools or training? Was it the emotional toll of a solo practice? Was it the idea that business development does not need to feel salesy and that it can actually feel human? Or did strategic outsourcing resonate for you as a way to reclaim time and sanity? So, whatever it is, please share it with me. Which ones are you going to lean into this week? I'd love to hear your stories. Send me a message and let me know. Thanks for tuning in today. And if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss future episodes packed with actionable strategies to grow your practice. See you in the next episode.